Just know that you're not alone in this transaction trying to buy a home by yourself. If you have questions, please again, ask. Let's sit down, talk with my lender, and I'll be present during your meeting with my lender so you know you have full support.
I'm a man on a mission. I'm a man on a mission. I don't need no permission. I'm a man on a mission.
Make sure to save this video. So I sat down with a client and his family, and him and his wife were talking to the lender, which is also my business partner and friend, to understand his numbers better. Before I can go on with the point, if that's what makes you comfortable to purchase a home and it's to sit down with a lender face to face and to have me join the meeting, of course, we can have an in-person conversation with the lender and I can be there with you. The point of this video is to show you that it being a buyer's market has its benefits, and it took 4 years for it to turn from a seller's market into a buyer's market, which now benefits the buyers even more. That is excellent news for you all looking to buy a home and are on the sidelines because you are worried about the numbers, whether it's down payment or closing costs, or even my buyer agent commission. Yes, sellers were doing seller concessions already 4 years ago. But the difference back then and today is the situation of having 10 to 15 offers in one home is not as common. So let me show you on why it's best time for you to buy a home in today's market as the market shifts into a buyer's market. The number one obstacle that buyers have on buying a home right now is being worried on not having enough money for a down payment and closing costs and additional fees, such as the buyer agent commission if you have to pay your realtor, which in this case is me, when you hire me to help you purchase a home. But what many don't know is that it's still negotiable on who pays for the buyer agent commission. And I'm going to break down the costs for you, and I'll be as transparent as possible. While the prices have not come down significantly, and yes, we are still in the average home price of $480,000 here in the Las Vegas Valley, there are more housing inventory in today's market, and houses are sitting on the market for about 45 days average. With that being said, if you're afraid of getting beat out, there are a lot of more homes to choose from, and a realtor such as myself with a lot of market knowledge and strategies under my sleeve to help compete in a multiple offer situation. So there's no reason to have any fear when it comes to multiple offer situations. Another reason to purchase now, if you're comfortable with the numbers, once we look at your options, it's that the sellers are still willing to pay, depending on who the seller is, but they are still willing to pay seller concessions. And sellers are allowed to help up to 6% of the seller concessions. And as your real estate agent, I can negotiate for them to pay some, if not all, of your fees. And my fees, such as the closing costs, temporary rate buy down, and my buyer agent commission, as well as the home warranty, which the seller usually pays for the home warranty the first year anyway. Moreover, if you're looking for help for a down payment assistance, there's also help with that with Home is Possible. You just need to be comfortable with your monthly mortgage payment. So if the seller can pay for most of it or all of it, the government can help you with the down payment. You're really just left with the earnest money deposit, the home inspection fee, and appraisal fee, and save up for a little bit of miscellaneous fees. Let's do it on a $480,000 home, which is the average home right now in Las Vegas. Let's say that you are looking to put an offer on a home listed on the market for $480,000 on an FHA loan, which your down payment will be 3.5%, not 20% of the purchase price, which is, let's say you agree to purchase the home on its listed price, which is $480,000. Now, let's break that down payment. On an FHA loan of 3.5% of $480,000 is $16,800. After your offer has been accepted, you as a buyer have 2 business days to wire 1% to 2% of the purchase price, which is again $480,000 for the earnest money deposit, which is a good faith money letting seller know that you are very serious on buying their home. So going back to the breakdown, 1% to 2% of $480,000 is $4,800 to $9,600. And again, like I said, this is not an addition, but it's a part of the down payment, which is $16,800. But you have to pay some upfront fee to secure the home that you are putting an offer on. Now let's move on to the down payment assistance. Down payment assistance, when it comes to FHA loan, you only need 580 when it comes to your credit score to qualify for the Home is Possible government assistance. And down payment assistance with Home is Possible, if you qualify, can help you cover 3.5% of your down payment, which is $16,800. That's all of it. Now moving on to one of the seller concessions, which is a temporary 2-1 buy down to lower your interest rate. Let's break that down. The seller can help the buyer up to 6% for an FHA loan. Here's how you can divide the numbers when asking for concessions from the seller. Let's say you ask the seller to pay for 2% to 4% for your closing costs, which is $9,600 to $19,200 to be exact. That will cover some, if not all, of your closing costs, depending if the seller will be willing to pay for everything. Now, I'm not saying to completely rely on the seller concessions, but it doesn't hurt to ask. And if they counter the offer, we'll deal with it then. But make sure you save enough just in case they do. Now, going back to the temporary rate buy down. You still have 2% to use, and which is typically how much you will need for a temporary rate buy down, which is again 2%, which is $9,600 for your rate buy down to bring down your interest rate temporarily. In total, that's about $28,800 for the seller concessions. Hopefully you're following me. If not, all I'm doing is multiplying however percentage by $480,000, and that's how I get these numbers. Before I move on, remember you have to qualify for today's current interest rate, which is right now about 6.8%. But with a temporary rate buy down, your interest rate could be at 4.8% the first year, and then the second year it could be at 5.8%. And it would be at 6.8% on the third year on the life of the loan, unless let's say things go for the better and interest rates stay at 5.5% 2 years from now. And you can actually refinance your home and you can lock in your interest rate at mid-5s for the remaining of the loan of your home. I'm not saying rates will be at mid-5s 2 to 3 years from now, but if they do come down, you can always refinance. The biggest thing is to make sure that you still qualify for the current interest rate right now, just in case it doesn't go for the better. Lastly, you as the buyer have another expense, which is the buyer agent commission, which is negotiable, meaning we can always negotiate my rate. If you can only pay for half, we can always ask the seller to pay for the other half. Or let's say you can't pay it at all. We can put the buyer agent commission on the offer, and which is 3% or $14,400 for the seller to pay. Remember that this is not just verbal, but this will be on the offer, which is on the RPA or Residential Purchase Agreement contract. And it's also on the binding contract called the BBA or Buyer Brokerage Agreement that is between you and me. I will explain to you and show you what percentage I charge, how long you want me to be your agent exclusively, and how long we'll be looking at homes with signatures of all parties before we look at homes. This is all done so that no one is blindsided and no one can say that I didn't explain anything. Working with me will be a walk in the park, and you'll have full transparency. Let's do a recap on how much it would be if you're using the government assistance Home is Possible, including the help from the sellers with seller concessions. Down payment assistance is 3.5% or $16,800. Sellers are paying 2% to 4% of your closing costs, which is about $9,600 to $19,200. And then the sellers pay for your temporary rate buy down. To break it down, your interest rate is about 2% or $9,600. And then let's say the seller agrees to pay for all of my agent commission, which is 3% on the buyer side, which is negotiable. which is $14,400. Lastly, best case scenario, the seller is very generous and pays for your home warranty for the year, which is typically between $500 to $650 on average for a full coverage. In total, that's about $43,850 of seller concessions and $16,800 of down payment assistance from home as possible. Best case scenario, you only need to worry about your earnest money deposit, home inspection fee, home appraisal fee, and save up for a couple of thousands of dollars just in case for miscellaneous fees. Worst case scenario, you'll have to pay for your own home warranty, which is at most $650 for a full coverage for a year, which is about $50 to $60 a month. Typically, the seller pays for the home warranty, but if you're asking for a lot of the seller concessions, I would advise you as the buyer to pay for your own home warranty. Going back to the total of how much the seller will have to fork out to help you with the seller concessions, that's a lot of money, and it's rare to have a very generous seller that will be willing to pay for all of your fees on top of their own fees and closing costs. That's the best case scenario. So you have to take into account the worst case scenario and do your own homework and crunch your own numbers just in case the seller doesn't pay for everything. Even if the seller decides to pay for half, it's better than nothing, so it doesn't hurt to ask for help. So if you want to buy a home but also want to see what your options are and look into possible financing options, don't hesitate to ask. And I will be there by your side, coaching you and advising you on what to offer and what to adjust if the seller isn't pulling the trigger and accepting your offer, especially if they have to pay for everything. And maybe we can adjust and ask for half and you pay for the other half. Just know that you're not alone in this transaction trying to buy a home by yourself. If you have questions, please again, ask. Let's sit down, talk with my lender, and I'll be present during your meeting with my lender so you know you have full support. Let's have a conversation on what you need, especially with the numbers with no rush or pressure, just for you to be comfortable and understand your numbers on both the low end and on the high end side of things. So I hope you learned something from this video, and if you need to rewind and pause again to see the numbers, go ahead and do so. And if you're curious about what I can do for you, let's talk about it and meet up in person with my lender. Just talk numbers and you're not getting pre-approved right on the spot, and just talk about your concerns and show you the numbers and make sure that you and your family are comfortable with the mortgage payment and all the other numbers. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn your notifications on so you don't miss out on the new videos that I put out. Also remember to save this video, like, comment below, and share this video with someone you know looking to buy a home. Lastly, if you have any other questions, you can call or text me at 702-826-0249. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you on the next video.